everyone, Roy Shepard here. After a catastrophe, many people would not know what to do. Many people would perish along the way. But after a while, most people will join together to form communities. It's just human nature to be part of a community. About 90% of all the people will be part of communities after a shit hits the fan scenario. Some of them will be criminal, most of them would not be, but all of them will gather together for the same reason: to limit the violence, the anarchy in the streets, and to put some sort of order and safety for the people. Remember, strength in numbers. It's important to know what's coming so we can plan in advance. Join a community now that we want to be part of. When push comes to shove, you'll know these people will have your back. Now, some areas will be more dangerous because of the affiliation to some sort of a criminal gang or a radical organization that's going to be in that area. So we know to plan for a bug out as soon as something gets hairy, or we can preemptively move to a safer location right now. So now we're going to go over the top 5 communities that are going to form after a shit hits the fan scenario, in order of how dangerous they would be to outsiders. The first, or actually the largest group of people will gather together in their neighborhoods or their religious communities. You know, most people living in a suburb or a tight-knit community that does some events, some parades or celebrations and things like that. They would, in case of a shit hits the fan scenario, afterwards they would join together and form some sort of a community with a hierarchy and roles, and each person would be responsible for something else. For example, some people would be responsible for safety and security, others will be responsible for food, either planting, gardening, gathering or preparing food. Others will be taking care of the young or the elderly. Even though most people would be part of these type of communities, these communities would be relatively smaller ones, limited to the local area or neighborhood these peoples live in. These communities will usually be more lenient and are the least dangerous to outsiders. To join these communities, all you need is to be living in the geographical area of that community and be an active part of that community over the weekends or events or anything like that. The next type of communities is communities of active clubs. Many people join some sort of a club in their leisure time. They either join a martial arts, sports team, they can join a hunting club, camping club, climbing club, hiking, many different types of activities. And these people usually get together in their free time and practice and do some social events together as well. After a SHTF scenario, they would band together probably in their club's HQ and form some sort of a society. Since these are all like-minded people who already know one another and already know one another in different activities, they would be a pretty stable and strong community to be part of. Now, these people are usually not really dangerous to outsiders, but since they have certain type of skills, they would, for example, a hunting club would probably use their hunting skills. Martial arts club would use their martial arts expertise to do the same. It would be kind of a problem for outsiders to join the club unless they have the same mindset. They would be more selective for new members after such a scenario. In the US, about 1.4 million people taking an active part of one of the 33,000 known gangs in the United States since 2011, and their numbers are rising. These include prison gangs, street gangs, mafias, and the like. And they're usually territorial. They have their own territory. After a shit hits the fan scenario, they would take their territory and give some sort of protection to the people that live there in exchange for goods and services, and of course labor. And they will try to recruit to make their numbers larger. Now, anytime this type of organization, since it's ruled by power and fear and intimidation, the bigger it becomes, the less possible it is to control the new members, the lower level of soldiers, foot soldiers as they're called. And since some of them might be ambitious, some of them might be reckless, but as the bigger they get, the more prone to instability and inside fighting they would become. So instability in this type of organization is probably inevitable conclusion, and after a while some sort of a coup or a civil war inside of them will incur. This type of organization will dispense an excessive rule of law to the area that they're in, and they would be pretty ruthless to anyone, to any outsider. They would use violence as their main method of controlling the people. Next, we have rogue police and military forces turned into gangs or communities. In case these units are cut off from the main forces, they may become rogue units, and they might be very dangerous in case their commanding officers will start taking dubious decisions. And since soldiers are trained to follow orders, and those who don't may get kicked off or even be tried for treason, then it might be very, very dangerous. Now, these people, these gangs, they have the equipment, they have the training, and they have the ability to take over areas of population and enforce a very strict martial law, a very strict excessive rule of law. Now, some of them might venture off into the wild, into the outdoors. Others might stay in their base and protect it. A military base is already a facility that is capable to sustain these large numbers of people, and so that there might be different type of conclusion to that. But we can see a real-life example of this happening after the fall of the USSR, the Soviet Union, that many rogue generals took their military, took their units, and started selling off equipment, tanks, planes, and weapons for their personal gain. These type of gangs could be extremely dangerous to any outsider, because since if you're not part of the trained units, they would not spend the time to retrain, and they have their own codes and their own ways of thinking to live by, and anyone who doesn't is inferior in their eyes. So they might be extremely dangerous to any outsider. Now, the last and most powerful group of all is the remnants of the old government. As part of their emergency protocols, they will go and hide in their bunkers. And after a while, they will emerge from those bunkers. They will have in their arsenal all the technology, all the people, the experts, thousands and thousands of professionals from different agencies, from military to security, scientists, engineers, and the list goes on and on and on. And these people will stop at nothing to get their power back, to get to where they were in the society before the collapse. And they have the capability to level neighborhoods or even cities if they deem that area as a lost cause. So they may be very, very dangerous. They will probably appoint a dictator, probably one of the, might be the president or the highest ranking person that survived the ordeal. And later on, maybe, hopefully, after things settle down and everything stabilized, they will return to democracy with a proper division of power between legislative, executive, and judicial department. But if not, there will be a civil uprising and probably a coup. To sum up, after a catastrophe, the survivors would gather together to form communities and strengthen numbers. It's important to join now like-minded people and become part of a community. And these people would be your lifeline in case of a SHTF scenario. Being a lone wolf in a post-catastrophe world is extremely, extremely dangerous. So you have to be part of a community. Strength in numbers. People would gather in communities. Some would be more liberal, others will be extremely punishing. So you have to watch out and stay alerted to which communities are prominent in your local area. Now it's your turn. What community are you a part of, and what will be your role in case of a shit hits the fan scenario? And if you are not part of a community, what's holding you back? Leave a comment below. I read each and every one of your comments. Lockpicking is an extremely useful skill. It will literally save your life if you're stuck behind a closed door, a locked gate, or you need to scavenge an abandoned apartment and find the necessities for survival. It will literally save you days of travel or help you find equipment and necessities to sustain you for days. In the next post, in the next video, we'll learn how to lockpick a simple tumbler lock and the cheap Chinese lock, how to break cheap Chinese locks. I can't wait to share all this with you. So until then, stay safe.